Namaskar, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Sanjayji, for the introductions. My name is Gautam Bhattacharya, and I'm really honored to be here today to speak, to be a co-chair of this session. We will be very brief to the point because we have eminent speakers here and we have one extra, and we also want to leave enough time for you to ask questions and answers. I believe the interactive part is really where we all get something out of this for the future. So. Just to paint the broader picture, the canvas is that Hindus today are spread all over the world. We face very different environments. Sweden, Hindus face no oppression, but we face the distractions of post-religious modern Western society, i.e. that our environment is very different from what Hindus in Pakistan or Hindus in Nepal or Hindus in Myanmar will face. So I think that the sessions today will give you an overview of a very, very different but still challenging environment that we face in various countries across the world. So I mean, the point is that so far the Hindu community, if you look at the last decades since independence of India, the Hindu community globally has not been very, very good at mobilizing politically, neither within the countries nor between the countries to support. We have cases like Fiji in the 80s, the coups in Fiji, Suriname, Guyana. There have been lots of calamities facing Hindus in various countries where they've been living. But we've been quite poor, I have to say, in putting pressure on the global community to act in our favor. Other communities are much better at this. This is something that we need to address, and it's fully legitimate to talk about that because we are a religious community that's the third largest in the world. And I think that this conference will hopefully give us an impetus to build those networks and build those methods, more than anything else, methods and toolboxes to work together with modern technology today. We are a click away from each other. We can put pressure on people. We can act politically. We need to bring up leaders, and we need to work together and reinforce each other where needed the most at the moment. So with these few words, let me also, I mean, Priya, would you also like to say a few words?
Namaskar, it's a pleasure and honor to be here, and I welcome everybody. I second what Gautam is saying, that the Hindu community has challenges globally. The Hindu community has challenges globally, and this is a good time for us to sit together and think of a strategy of how we can all work together to make things easier for all the Hindus globally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priya. And then I'd like to give the word to Mr. Tsering. And we are on time.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning to the chairs and my fellow panelists. As introduced, my name is Ngodup Tsering. I am currently the representative of His Holiness Dalai Lama to the North America and also the Central Tibet Administration in Dharamsala, India. So my topic today actually is to talk about collective strategies to address complex political environments. Actually, when I speak about it, I wanted to say a few words on how normally, as a Tibetan, you are asked by a lot of people who are interested in Tibet. They say, Tibet has lost its country since 1959, and we've been living in India as perhaps longest, His Holiness Dalai Lama said, I'm the longest guest in India for the last 60 years. We are very, very grateful for that, actually. So people say that why Tibet has been invaded or occupied by China. What is there in Tibet? So we normally say, what are the reasons why China invaded Tibet? So I normally say that there are three main reasons. Number one, it's a population transfer, because there's a huge tract of land in Tibet, it's almost the size of Western Europe together. And then there are only 6 million Tibetans, and China has more than 1 billion population. That's actually a problem related with Tibet itself only. Then the second reason why they are coming up there is the strategic military reason. They wanted to, not only remain in Tibet, but go over if possible, for the world, otherwise they have Asia, because the Tibet provides them a very strategic area right on top of the world. We say it's a roof of the world. So now it is actually happening. So that is another reason why the Communist China came to Tibet in 1959. And third, and the main, again, more very important urgent reason is why, the mineral resources, including water, environments. That's actually one of the main reasons why China wants to occupy Tibet. So this actually is very strongly telling upon the countries surrounding Tibet, India, China, and Asian countries. So I would like to tell a little bit about how these are in reality happening today. Now in Tibet, because there's a huge land, as I said, the number one, because now it's only 6 million, and then a lot of Chinese population transfer is taking place systematically in Tibet. Now, in most of the regions, the important cities in Tibet, we have majority of Chinese than the Tibetan population, Tibetan people itself. So, and then it's also still taking place in a very systematic way. And then secondly, militarily, now that you have seen perhaps those who are in Nepal, those who are in India and Burma, that we see this happening every day. The militarily provides a very strategic place for China to be looking over the neighboring countries. And the border area, which there was, in fact, before 59, there was literally no border between India and Tibet. It's almost 1% we can go. The Indian pilgrims go to Mount Kailash, once over the river or lake, just like that. And likewise, Tibetan people who wanted to come to India learned the sacred texts, Buddhist texts, traditional learning, everything. They can do it very freely. But now there is a huge, border about 4,000 kilometers long, and how much India has to provide to strengthen, to keep control of all these borders. So sometimes we say in India, the Tibetan ka, Dadi Bharat ka Suraksha. So I lived in India for a long time, so I've even studied Hindi to some extent. And then these things now are really happening true. And with now China all over, so this is actually the collective, political challenges that we all face together. And thirdly, I like to talk about the environment destruction that's taking place in Tibet, which has a direct impact on the countries around. For instance, water. The main, I think major 10, 12 rivers that flow in different subcontinents, Indian subcontinents, they flow from Tibet. The Indus, Indus River, which is the cradle of Indian civilization, comes from Tibet. Satluj, which goes into Pakistan, comes from Tibet. Then Brahmaputra, which comes through the northeast and then goes into Bangladesh, comes from Tibet. Even in China itself, the longest river in the world, the Yangtze, starts from Tibet. Yellow River starts from Tibet. So with these rivers, now what's happening right now, because Tibet actually is a sanctuary so far, or sometime back, because it is even called as the North Pole, because of the huge number of glaciers which are over there. And with these glaciers and through these rivers, the millions and probably 2 billion people who are around, these rivers, who are being surrounded by these rivers, are affected. But whatever is happening upstream, in fact. And then a very stark issue was in 2-3 years ago, Brahmaputra River, which runs through the Assam, and that river we didn't take much notice beforehand because it's just a river flowing down. But then 2 years ago, there was so much dam constructions going upstreams, and Brahmaputra turned very dirty, very black color, and so many rubles coming out. And then people started to know in Assam and Northeast frontier people, they said, what's happening? So they knew that there are a lot of things happening upstream. So, then now the attention has already started pointed to these situations, these things that are happening. And then, the China, although there is a United Nations treaty to give information to each other, to the neighboring countries particularly, but no, the China seems to be not providing the right kind of information to the country, to India, for instance. However, they give the same information to Bangladesh in terms of the water level. So what I'm trying to say is, these are some collective challenges. That is why the Tibet still is a very relevant issue. And religion, for instance, is something related to everyone. We do not know how much Hindus are there in China, but Buddhists, Christians, anything, Muslims, all are affected, all are persecuted at a level that you won't believe. So these are the common challenges, and it is a time for all of us to work together and to bring the Chinese, the communist regime, to question in the United Nations when they're trying to maintain that they are economic superpower, and they're trying to jostle their elbows everywhere. So this is the time when we are together and then see how we can fight, how we can stop the onslaught of the Chinese communist expansionist design. So I think my time is running out, and it's so much a privilege, and I wanted to really thank the World Hindu Congress for giving me this opportunity. And I also happened to attend the first World Hindu Congress in New Delhi in 2014. I was in Dharamsala then, and His Holiness Dalai Lama was the chief guest during that time. So like yesterday, when Mohan Bhagatji was also talking about the World Hindu Congress of 2014, it gave me a great memory of that first Congress in Dharamsala. So thank you so much for all this applause.
Just wanted to make sure that you're awake. Let's hope that was the last of the mishaps, technical mishaps. There can be an Indian event without any technical mishaps, so we had it. Just joking. And thank you, Dr. Tsering, for this very interesting expose of various issues that affect us. Tibet, of course, and Tibetans are very close to the hearts of all Indians, and hope you'll get some good questions from the audience. Thank you. And now to Mr. Kaidi from Nepal, please.
Thank you, Gautam Bhattacharya ji, co-chairperson, and Madam Priya Chandan ji. My friend Ngodup, and the Honorable MP Santosh Kalyan ji, and my friend from Tamil Jaffna. Sorry, your name is very long, I cannot spell. Dr. Sachidanandan, and here are so many dignitaries, and Sardarji Sri Lanka ji. Namaste, and Savaddi Khap, Swasti, and Tashi Deli. So I'm going to just, I don't like to take more time, it's a very valuable time. So I have a paper that allow me to read that paper. If any question you can ask me. It's, the title of the paper is Protecting Hindu Political Interests in Nepal. Hinduism is not religion, but it is a dharma which we practice in our life, said the late Saint Narayanath of Nepal. He further said the dharma is not human-made, but we only follow it. It is from the divine order through Veda. Hinduism is perhaps the oldest human civilization, still followed by more than 1 billion people all over the world. Moreover, the majority, more than 82% according to government data in Nepal, of the people of Nepal still follow Hinduism. There are 3 crores of population and 82% are Hindus. In spite of nation being declared a secular republic by the name of revolution, internally the communists and socialists and externally the micromanagement of the Project Joshua 1 and Joshua 2 of Christians type conspiracies destroy our socio-cultural systems in Nepal. Almost the whole Asia was Hindustan. Not only present-day Nepal and India were Hindu countries, but religious history proved that the whole earth was Hindu. According to Kailash Purana, that is called Kangri Karchak in Tibetan, Minister Noru better know, Kangri Karchak, the Kailash Purana, the river Ghagra, now called Karnali or Sarju, was called Sindhu. Yeah, Sindhu river. By that word, the Hindu and Sindhu dharma and the civilization is originated. On the bank of Sindhu, there is Ayodhya. On the bank of Sindhu, there is Manma, the capital of Lord Manu, and there is Rajkot, the capital of Lord Shiva. The Maula Kot, Maula is Shiva. Ghagra, and now called Karnali, was called Sindhu. By that word, Hindu and Sindhu dharma and the civilization is originated. By the same word, the Chinese called their dharma Shintao and the Japanese called Shinto. The history of Khans of Mongolia shows that they were the Hindus and their dharma is called Xian. Recently, a survey by the Mindri University of Inner Mongolia shows that the population of Xian worshippers is 80% in Inner Mongolia, whereas the Buddhists are only 12%, Christian 2%, and Muslims are only 0.91% in Inner Mongolia. The history of Hindu Sanklan relates the dharma with all the ancient faiths such as Mayans, Druids, Celts, Aztecs, and so many other faiths. The master god of Himalayan region of Nepal, Uttarakhand, Bhutan, Sikkim, and in other parts of the Kashmir even, and other parts shows its periphery from Korea to Poland, master god, the god called Tenger, and in West Asia and to Siberia. The faith is known as the god Tengri or Tenger, which in Avesta mentioned as Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda is the master god of Himalaya. He is the son of Lord Indra, and he is the ruler of the earth, and Indra is the ruler of the heaven. And this rule is taken from the god, supreme god Shiva. Sorry. The real history of Hindus is diverted by the Western writers who were appointed by their colonial masters. There has been intrusion from all sides with the help of some Hindus themselves to divide us and destroy our faith. From the Muslim invasion of India, the war of conversion began with the interpolation of all Hindu literatures. Manu Smriti ko khatam kar diya, मुसलमान होने, पहले उसी की बात करते हैं कि आप अछूत है, क्या है, महिलाओं को ऐसा करते हैं, ये सब क्या बात है? These are the interpolations by the Muslims in India. Interpolation of all Hindu literatures, and later the European masters under the leadership of Lord Macaulay and Max Muller used against all these, against the Hinduism. Till date, the conversion of our faith is growing in different ways. When neighboring India is emerging as the staunch Hindu nation, Nepal, only the declared Hindu nation is slowly being eroded by foreign cultures and religions. From the crusade of the Christians to the jihad of Muslims, Nepal has been spared, has not been spared. Different parts of the country are seeing the establishment of churches, mosques, madrasas through the 94% people are from Omkara family, including Hindus in Nepal, from the last 10 years. This is not a communal tyranny, but individuals who had to be staunch Hindus have sold themselves to destroy the dharma which was holding all the Nepalese together. Previously, Buddha's ideal could be found in almost every Hindu temples. Christians were allowed to carry on with their prayers and festivals. Muslims were given the freedom to hold their weekly religious activities on Friday and on other occasions, and the people got along in harmony in Nepal. But now, like most of our people in Nepal, these who lived in the hill areas and villages in Nepal are very honest and hardworking, but they are very poor and illiterate. So they can be easily turned from their faith. Within 10 years of secularist politics, the conversion is in the highest rate in Nepal. More than 11% conversion is going on by the Christians. The education system, press, civil societies, and whole political parties are working as the tools of conversion. So the danger of destabilization and social disintegration of the oldest nation of the world is very near. This urgent crisis is not realized by the West-made intelligentsia of Nepal and among Hindu communities. Very few Hindu organizations are only money-making, but in the field doing nothing in Nepal due to the old outdated leadership. In Nepal, there is no organization of Hindus and other local traditions like RSS in India working with selfless motives which can fight jihadis and crusaders against their militant motives. Yogi Narharinath and Swami Prabhannacharya, Dr. Swami Prabhannacharya fought in their whole life as the great revolutionary leader, Bir Savarkar of India in Nepal. But both were saintly persons and rejected external support. People in Nepal are fully aware that just a few hundred political leaders passed the act of secularism by clapping their hands with the interest of outsiders. To defend the faiths and the rights of the Hindus and other traditional faiths in Nepal, we need to educate our young generations, purify the history as a whole, and prepare people to be free from diverted history, perverted mind, and defiled ideas. To complete such tasks, we need a strong local leadership and solidarity to succeed such mission with Hindus all over the world. This August Congress of this Chicago Congress of all Hindus of the world can support us by providing latest information of their tactics, of the crusaders and the jihadis, and the conspiracy of the neo-colonial powers, as well as other logistic support. Nepal is a small entity, but it is the head of the Hindu civilization. So all Hindus must dedicate themselves to protect their head. This gathering of our society's cream of brains will take a serious course to defend the innocent, sincere and illiterate villagers of Nepal who are being victims of war of conversion. Therefore, I would like to appeal all Hindus living in USA and other parts of the world to contribute in whatever way they can to save Hinduism in Nepal from outside influence, and also make different pressure groups to make aware our politicians of the past mistakes that have been committed, which has not brought religious tolerance but creating more disharmony. I hope all of you will support me in this venture. Thank you. Jai Gorakh.
Thank you, Shri Prem Kaidi, for a very inspiring speech. The problems facing Hindus in Nepal are similar to the ones facing Hindus and related religions, from Sikhs, Buddhists, followers of Zoroastrians, Yazidis, and ancient indigenous faiths all over the world. Poverty, lack of economic resources, lack of cohesion, lack of education, all these make poor people very easy prey for purveyors of other religions. It's a fact. I don't think I need to say more about it. But it's a very valid point, and again, this conference hopefully will lead to new networks where we can work together and strengthen each other. Thank you. And now to Sri Santosh Kalyan. If you will come to the stage, please.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. So, as a politician, I use every platform that is available to me to talk about the particular issues that I face as a Member of Parliament of Indian origin in my country. Some of you were not here yesterday, so I will just, if you would bear with me for those who were here yesterday, to just repeat that in a parliament of 400 people in our country, in the National Assembly, I'm talking about the second house, I am the only Indian woman MP of Indian origin. And that is a shocking indictment on our country. It's also a shocking indictment on people, and I will use the word Indian and Hindu loosely and interchangeably. It's a shocking indictment that Hindus, Indians don't want to take up public life, public office. I don't know whether it's about the poor bucks that we get or the sacrifices that one has to make. In the ruling party, there's only one member of Indian origin. He's a minister, Minister Ngodup. I'm in the largest official opposition, and in the second smallest opposition, there's also another Indian Hindu Member of Parliament, Narendra Singh. So it doesn't speak very well of my country. And perhaps it has a lot to do with the apartheid system. And what is apartheid? What was it? It's something I lived through, where from 1948 onwards, the president at the time, President Kapur, decided that all white people would live in plush, lovely areas. The black people would be moved out to townships, and the Indian people and colored people moved out. We were classified by race, so it was Indian, African, white, and colored. And Indians were put into, in Durban, they were put into two large townships, one called Phoenix and the other one called Chatsworth. And the Africans were put into two areas called Kwamashu and Amlazi. I'm talking about Durban. And after a particular time, after 5 p.m., you couldn't be in the city. You had to leave. There was a curfew. The benefit of apartheid was it enforced a kind of sisterhood or brotherhood or social cohesion. We were forced to get on with each other, to support each other, through trials, tribulations, victories. We celebrated in our children's achievements. We celebrated our festivals with gusto and enthusiasm. After apartheid, then areas, the so-called white areas, became open. So the younger generation who were now getting educated, they were working, they were earning, they started to leave the parental home. There was no longer that new extended family. They started to have nuclear families and move out into the so-called former white areas. And the challenge of that is that we then started to have a disconnect. From my own personal experience, I live in an area called Gillets. I've been living there since 1995, the former white area, bought a property and I stay there. I know who my neighbors are. And maybe once or twice a month we wave when we get out of the driveway, you know. Because of my lifestyle, I work in another province, I'm not home during the week. When I come home at the weekend, all I want to do is close the door and not communicate with anybody. So that is what the post-apartheid has done. It's caused separateness. If I have to go out to a function, I do so. I get to meet people, I get to network. But you know, it's not kind of like the old days when you just pop in for a cup of tea next door and talk about things. The trauma of apartheid, we are only a democracy of 24 years. The trauma of apartheid is very much present and alive. What the government of the day did at the time was they established something called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It was chaired by Archbishop Tutu, and people who killed and people who had members killed or who were tortured in the apartheid time came before the commission as a kind of a cathartic cleansing experience. You know, if you were in the security branch, you were forced to hit people, even if they were your Indian brothers and sisters, you were forced to beat them up, you were forced to move them away, you were forced to torture them because of your colonial master. So the TRC, in a way, was cathartic, but maybe not so cathartic in that it opened up a lot more hurt and pain. Race relations at the moment is a challenge that affects South Africa. We thought post-apartheid now, you know, we won't be classified as Indian, white, colored, whatever. But there's a new dimension coming up. It's like racism in reverse, where we have, for example, a minor political party, only black members in that party. And they've been going around saying, all Indians are racist. And it's only a black party, so they're only in the black area saying Indians are racist, let's go back to India. Okay? So, as I said yesterday, I'm fourth generation in South Africa. Where in India am I going to go back to? And how do you know I'm racist? Look, I can defend it. I can say, we're not racist. We don't do what you're saying we do. But, you know, really, what's the point? It is their perception and it is a wrong perception. The fact that it can incite violence and hatred is another matter altogether, and we will need to deal with that. Yesterday, Sadhguru Dalip Singh in the plenary, in the afternoon session, he told us a story about monkey law. And I was so amused about it, you know. And then I thought, I will never ever use that story in my country. Because you're going to be so language sensitive. Now, in the Hindu community, Lord Hanuman is respected, we revere, we pray to him. But in my country, if you use the word monkey to describe a person, you know, you're a monkey, you know, and you would do it innocently. It's racist. You can be taken to you can be arrested for hate speech, and it's the I'm forgetting the word, Human Rights Commission would charge you. There was a lady, a white lady, who spoke in anger. You know, she used the K word. The K word in African terms is so derogatory. And she went on, FK, like that. She was arrested and sentenced to 2 years of imprisonment. So language sensitivity with the new democracy in South Africa is something that we have to be very mindful of. While we have confidence in the constitution, xenophobia does present a problem. There are a lot more Indians from India and Pakistanis doing good business, whether it's cell phone business or merchant business or whatever. And it's not viewed very well by the black community. They feel that, these people are taking their jobs. But there's dignity in any job. And there are plenty of people sitting at home waiting for that social grant rather than going out there and doing something. And one of the solutions for this is that we should regularize citizenship as soon as possible. Conversions does present a problem in our country amongst the Hindu community. We find it mainly in the Christian going to Hindu, based on the fact that I'll give you a food parcel every month, and we will pray for you, and God will save you, Jesus will save you, come to us. And because the level of poverty is so high and it's so desperate, at sometimes you believe that this is the savior, and you go over. Unfortunately, in South Africa, there seems to be such a fragmented approach to dealing with some of the challenges that face the Hindu community. We have the South African Indian Mahasabha, Hindu Mahasabha. We have the South African Sanatan Dharma Sabha. They don't talk to each other. They talk past each other. It's a power thing. I got a bigger and better Diwali show than you. I got a bigger and better sari stroll than you, and so on. My time is up. Just to touch on a point that the member from Tibet spoke about, I was part of the Vision 550 plan that they put together in January last year, where parliamentarians, legislators, other persons came together with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Dr. Lobsang Sanjay. We identified what the challenges are that face Tibet, and within 5 years, what was the achievable goal, and within 50 years, what should be done. That could be a solution also for us as Hindus. Let's do short-term intervention and then look at long-term. I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Shri Santosh Kalyan. As yesterday, very interesting to listen to you, and thank you for your very constructive remarks on how we could develop our ways of working. South Africa being in many ways an advanced country with an advanced constitution, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, although you indicated that it might not be entirely without its flaws, is still a very interesting method to look at for countries like Nepal and other countries. Hopefully one day even Pakistan and other countries will have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, because the fundamental fact of what the speakers here are saying is that human rights are human rights. If we all go for human rights and democracy, Hindu religion and other religions will flourish. This is the only way forward. So there are two challenges. We should all strive for human rights and democracy, which will allow everybody space. And within the Hindu community, we need to take care of our own flaws, which is that we are disunited, we are not looking after our own interests, and we don't devote our time and money for such endeavors. So with those few words, I'd like to now give the floor to Dr. Sachidanandan from Sri Lanka, senior Sri Lankan Hindu scholar, retired advisor to United Nations with global experience, an intellectual, researcher, visionary and influential grassroots activist. And Dr. Padmanabhan was supposed to come but could not come, so we got the eminent doctor instead. So we're very happy, and please come forward.
Delegates to the second World Hindu Congress, the moderator of the session here, participants from South Africa, Nepal, Tibet, and many other countries. thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. All of you have given me the patience with which you want to listen to what is happening in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, as you know, is the southernmost tip of India, a mango-shaped island. Next. This is what Sri Lanka is. All of you will know Sri Lanka as the country of Ravana. Yes. Why we say Ravana is? Ravana was a great worshipper of Shiva. Even though he has been portrayed as a villain in the epic, his devotion to Shiva, his wife's devotion to Shiva, that he built 5 temples in Sri Lanka during his time. He worshipped at Tirukoneshwaram every day, the eastern port of Trincomalee. In north there was Navaleshwaram he built, and the west he built the Tirukeshwaram, southwest the Munneshwaram, and the southern tip Tondeshwaram. So we have 5 Shiva temples built during Ravana's time. So we should understand it's a Hindu country basically. This is the present day administrative divisions in Sri Lanka. We have 25 districts, out of which 66,000 square kilometers of area. After the arrival of Buddha 2,500 years ago, the Ravana's Hindu country has been divided into 2 portions, where the Hindu majority lives in the 25,000 square kilometer area in the north and the east. The Buddhist majority lives in the south and the southwest. This is what was in 1981 the Hindu population in Sri Lanka. The north had its maximum, east had the next, and the southern portion very marginal, the density. Now, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, this was the Muslim population in Sri Lanka. The green indicates the areas where Muslims live and the proportion in which they lived. Very few located here. Next. Now this is present day Muslim population. 2012 census of the government of Sri Lanka. The next. This is the Christian population which was there in 30-40 years ago in Sri Lanka before the war. The next. Present day Christian population. The proportion has changed. The next. This is the Buddhist population in Sri Lanka. 30-40 years ago. Next. Now this is the Buddhist population today, as in 2012 or later. The next. Can you play that? This movie is what happened during the war. It probably is not working. Okay, it doesn't matter. We had 30 years of war. From late 1970s to 2009. The war was basically a Hindu-Buddhist war. The Buddhists wanted to, subjugate us. Buddhism is the state religion now, priority, it is given the status of priority religion in the Sri Lankan constitution, not Hinduism. Even though Hinduism is the oldest, the war was won by the government of Sri Lanka. That put the Buddhists in an advantageous position. Now, the Sri Lankan Buddhists are planning to build 1,000 viharas in the Hindu majority area of Sri Lanka. 1,000 viharas are Buddhist temples, where there are no Buddhists at all in those areas. But the war has given them that facility, that we are in a pitiable situation. Can you go next, please? This is which happened during the war. Most of our temples, numbering about 2,800 temples, were destroyed. The next, please. There's photographs of destruction. The next. This is what we are doing in Sri Lanka now, because as my previous speaker said from South Africa, poverty is the reason for conversion. Who is converting? Not Buddhists are not converting. To be fair by them, they are not attempting to convert Hindus to Buddhism. They are only wanting to build the Buddhist viharas and temples in Hindu-dominated areas. But the Christians and the Muslims are hell-bent on converting poor. Because of the war, the Hindu areas have become very poor. Destitutes are many. Rehabilitation process is very slow. People are houseless. Temples have been broken. That is a fertile ground for the missionaries. The Christian missionaries are using that situation. There are 1,560 non-Catholic groups receiving funds in Sri Lanka from the West, mostly from the churches in America and Europe. And each person who gets converted, the person who converts gets a reward of around $1,000 for one convert. Why I am telling you that?
Who converts or who gets converted?
Who converts? Who converts?
Who converts?
So if I convert one person, I get $1,000. So you continue, that is the incentive for conversion. The Muslims are doing the same thing. They have increased their population during the war. The Muslim population was only 6% of the total population in 1981. Today is 10%. Hindu population has gone down from 15% to 11%. The Christian population has gone up from 6 to 8%. The Buddhist population has remained static at 70%. The Muslims and Christians have overtaken the Hindus, are trying to overtake the Hindus to become the second largest majority in Sri Lanka. I appeal to all of you to focus your mind on our problems there. Please do not take away your attention because the war is over, because people are happy there, you think, no. I would like the World Hindu Congress. My concluding remark will be the World Hindu Congress should pay attention to Sri Lanka, the pitiable situation the Hindus are in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sachidananda, for these sobering words. I'm afraid that the session after the break will give you more of the same when we go into the situation of Hindus in Bangladesh, Pakistan and other countries. You see the pattern between the different countries. But then the question is, what do we do? We can't sit still and we need to work together. So I hope that now we have a question and answer session. I'm sure that the audience is raring to go. We the two co-chairs, will try to distribute the questions in order. So please just raise your hands and whoever has a question. Maybe a mic can be passed around. Yes. Sir. Keep this
क्या मैं हिंदी में बोलने का पाप कर सकता हूँ? नहीं। सबसे पहले तो मैं जो नेपाल के महाशय हैं उनसे उनको आश्वासन देता हूँ कि हम नामधारी संगत जो भी कर सकते हैं हम आपके साथ हैं। आप हिंदी समझते हैं जी? आपका जो मैंने प्रोफाइल देखा उसके अनुसार आप बहुत ही विद्वान हैं जो राजनीति के बारे में जानते हैं, और आप वो हैं जो तिब्बत से निकाले गए हैं, इसलिए आप हर एक तरह से पढ़े भी हैं, गुड़े भी हैं। तो आपसे मैं बड़े उल्टे उल्टे प्रश्न कर रहा हूँ, क्षमा कीजिएगा। क्या राजनीति कभी 100% पवित्र थी, या क्या ये पवित्र निर्लालच हो सकती है? Is it possible that the politics can be 100% pure, non-greedy, and was it ever? कभी ये हुई भी थी? नहीं, मेरा प्रश्न अच्छा नहीं, मेरे प्रश्न तो उसके साथ एक और भी है। नहीं, ठीक है, हाँ जी।
Actually, sir, मैं इतना ज्ञानी भी नहीं हूँ जैसा आप समझते हैं। खास पर पॉलिटिक्स में बहुत कम जानता हूँ। I was mainly in education, but this is a job that I've been holding to bring awareness about the situation of Tibetans in Tibet, and also mobilize support for Tibet. So I cannot, but मैं आपका ये to be honest, it actually depends on the persons who are in the politics. So मैं आपके लिए I cannot say it's a generalized ऐसा ये black white का तो नहीं दे सकते, लेकिन it depends.
नहीं, मेरा तो मतलब ये था कि on the whole। अच्छा, दूसरा प्रश्न मेरा इसके साथ नहीं है। आप और हम सब का ये ही मानना होता है कि सत्य की जीत होती है, धर्म की जीत होती है। तो यदि धर्म की जीत होती है तो जो आक्रमण करके जिन्होंने आपको निकाल दिया, बोतियों को कितना तंग किया, हिंदुओं को कितना तंग कर रहे हैं, तो वो क्यों जीत रहे हैं? खेल की बात नहीं है, वो अभी तक जीत चुके हैं। 80 देश ईसाइयों के हैं, 56 देश मुसलमानों के हैं, और हमारा क्या है? हम हार चुके हैं। आप कल की बात कर रहे हैं, कल किसने देखा है?
Actually, sir, we've been watching our campaign primarily on this issue. Right now, we're following Gandhiji ka. We're actually following the path of non-violence, ahimsa, जो गांधी जी ने भारत को इंडिपेंडेंस के में दिखाया था। दाला लामा जी तो गांधी जी का considering himself as a disciple. So through the non-violence and the negotiation that we actually are making our efforts to have a settlement with China. लेकिन इस तरफ अभी जो आप कह रहा है, this is not happening. That's what we are saying to the world, to the United Nations, that if the success to the freedom struggle of Tibet gets result, this will be a model for the world, in struggles in all countries in their struggle to freedom. तो अभी ये इस तरफ नहीं हो रहा था, इसलिए I think we all have to work towards that. assess or stuff.
So we will give chance to this guy.
I have a comment to make. Please ask a question. Don't keep on dragging or just don't tell your story. Just ask your question.
So this side. Yeah, we have 10 minutes roughly. So please let everybody. And please introduce yourself as you speak.
My name is Srindrapal Kaushal, and my question is to Sir Middle, I'm sorry, can't pronounce the name. When was the last time the political map of Tibet was constructed or was presented to the UN? Or was it there or was it not?
Actually, in the past, before '59, there was not so much of a sense of map as such as we now see it. So that is why it was very easy for China to take over. And in fact, during that time also, there was some map. And when Chinese Chao En-lai, the premier, talked with late Pandit Nehru, so that time it was raised that a lot of places that belong to India, now they also have been put into that map. So during that time, when he was asked, Chao En-lai very coolly said that, oh, we have to redesign the map, don't worry about it. It was during old Tibet day. But in fact, that was not true. So, this is the kind of pride that, under which we feel that the Indian leadership actually fell, as a mistake, So, to be honest with you, actually during the Tibet's time, there was not so much a sense of the present situation of the mapping the boundary of Tibet. But we say 3 provinces of Tibet, where the Tibetan people are living. So those are actually the areas that the map that Tibet normally tells. And the boundary or the border towards India is not so much clearly delineated or demarcated, but there is a pillar between Tibet and China way back in the 8th century when there was a war between China and Tibet. There's a pillar, but now the pillar is taken off. They have totally eradicated the pillar. So that actually said that this is a pillar, this all belongs to the Tibet, these other than that, it belongs to China. So even it stated on the pillar that Tibetans are happy in Tibet, Chinese are happy in China. So that is a word, but it's not now available to be seen.
Okay. Lady there first, and then gentlemen. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Nehalata. I have a question for everyone actually. That if you guys can quickly prioritize that what are the action items which we can do based on all of, I won't say issues, but based on the problems which we have today. What is obviously in audience, we all are pretty active and we can take some action items from ourselves. But if you can prioritize us that, okay, these are the issues and these are the first things we would like to do in my country and I would seek help for these things. And this is my number 1 priority. So we would surely put something on our action list also.
So what's the number 1 priority?
Just one each and very quickly, please. If you would say for your countries and for your groups, what would be your wish list? Sri Lanka, please.
The immediate priority is to rehabilitate the Hindus who do not have support from any source like the other religions. The Buddhists have their support from the government, the Islamists have from the Gulf countries, the Christians have from the West and the US. We are isolated, alone, and we need global support in rehabilitating us and keeping our identity as Hindus beyond this calamitous period. Thank you.
For me, it would be to establish a proper database of all the Hindu organizations in South Africa and get them talking to each other?
In Nepal, we need the information, the tactics, how the colonialists playing in our country and society. That we need from your side.
Well, for Tibet, actually, the resolution of Tibet issue perhaps seems to be first longing, but for the betterment of all Asia, I think the environment destruction that's taking place in Tibet, particularly the river, water, because it is said that the past century was the wars were fought on land. Now this century is fought on the oil. The next century will be the war fought on water. So water is very important for all the human beings that are affected by this flow from Tibet.
My question is that obviously we're having a missing representative in the UN. Is it not that we need to see that we Hindus get a representative in the UN, because the Vatican is there to represent the Christians. The Muslim countries always highlight their Muslim problems. Hindus is never highlighted by no one, even not by India. India will never do that. So is it not that we jointly have a seat in the UN now? We demand that now.
I would like to propose a dharmic seat for all us, Buddhist and Hindu and Sikh.
So I think the first thing, that's a very noble suggestion. But the first thing that we must look at is that the UN has outgrown its mandate. Its mandate initially in 1948, when it was established, was to maintain peace. And I think this is where it has failed miserably, because it's actually a toothless body right now and it needs to be reformed. The UN Security Council decision that was taken for China and Tibet to find that middle way approach has been ignored. And this is, I think, where this, China shows its arrogance, because it is one of the 5 main signatories, one of the 5 powers that have voting rights in the UN. Veto rights. And they're just not prepared to come to the table and talk. They just use this power that they have and they veto. So while your suggestion is a noble one, what we should be looking at is actually reforming the UN and making it a more effective body, because it's outgrown its mandate.
I support Sheetalji just suggested to have a seat in the UN is necessary for the Hindus. And I think this World Hindu Congress must pass a resolution in this matter. We need that. Whatever the position the UN has, that does not matter. We need the seat there. We need the voice to raise there. So Sheetalji's proposal is, I think, it's the most important proposal. Thank you very much.
Next.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you for a great panel discussion. I just had a question, mainly directed to those of you in political life in the public sphere. Santoshi had mentioned earlier that we need to encourage more Hindus to enter public life and public office. So what can we do ourselves to make that happen? Because right now, in the American context, we see that as Indian Americans are at the top of the socioeconomic ladder, there's a sense of apathy. There's no need to have representation because everyone feels that they're all good to go. So how can we make them feel that there is a real need for political representation? There's a need for our voices to be heard on the political stage. Because as you said, we can't get a seat in the UN until we have people lower in the totem pole working for politics.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think if one, I'd love to have a discussion with you off the, outside about this. The apathy factor in the Hindu community is so huge. And many of them just don't even bother to register to vote. They don't come out on voting day. And they fail to understand. This is something in my, door to door, I always say, on the day you're going to vote, that X has got the same power as everybody else in who's voting. Whether you're the president of the country, or whether you are a gardener, or whether you are a street cleaner, that X is equal. But the apathy, because I think we're in a comfort zone, we're so much in a thank you, such a lovely Paul, hello. That we're in a comfort zone. We got a home, we got the white picket fence, we've got education, we got food on the table, why worry about anybody else? But let's go back to what the Vedic Dharma is all about. It's about service. Quite honestly, I'm a member of parliament, but every day I deal with nonsense like my dog is out on the road or somebody's dog is out on the road. Can you sort it out? We got no water, we got no internet connectivity, and I think to myself, let me just put a gun here because this is nonsense. I'm a legislator. And the idea, is to service. Do something, make a difference with your life. I actually got dropped into politics by accident. I was a teacher and then I became a psychologist, and one day I was serving my internship somewhere and the leader of this party that I belonged to, he came by and he was there for an event and...
Can we take a next question, please?
Sorry.
Dr. Cooker from New York.
Okay. I was going to finish the story, but thank you.
Am I on? Dr. Cooker from New York. My question is wrapped up in a little comment. First of all, there's nothing wrong in speaking in English when my congregation understands English. India has 16 languages, so I'm very proud to speak in English, even though now I know Hindi and Punjabi. My question, second one, which is wrapped up in a question, if India is democratic and secular today because of Hindus, majority, India cannot allow the existence of a theocratic state around its border if it wants to propagate integrity, honesty, and a secular country. So my question to the panel is, what are your thoughts about going after the fact that there should be democracy and secular democracy around the borders of India?
Yes, yes, it should be done. Easier said than done. Easier said than done, and it should be done, and it will be done. We have 1 minute left, I think, so if someone is very urgent, I think gentlemen...
I'm waiting for my answer.
The question is that yes, it has to be done. The answer is yes, it has to be done.
Namaste, Vinayak from San Antonio, Texas. I guess this is for Tibet, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. So if we go with, I guess we all should learn from India that if you follow non-violence and Mahatma Gandhi, you get what you can. So I think we need another Guru Nanak Ji to take over and for the liberation of Tibet, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. And so we should not fall in the trap of non-violence or follow Mahatma Gandhi. Then beggars get what they get.
Last question.
I would like to ask a question. Can the religions born from the landmass east of river Indus or Sindhu be called greater Hinduism? The religions born are Sanatana Dharma, Buddhism, Jainism and Sikhism, and the sampradayas of different Indic religions.
Is the question whether they can bond?
Yes.
Shall I answer? They do. They are bonding. We see that in Sri Lanka there is a problem. We see in Sri Lanka that there is a problem between Buddhists and Hindus, as you indicated. Yes, that's a fact. There are certain points of conflict, but I would say this is more a political issue. It's not a religious issue at the bottom of it. I'm sure it can be overcome.
I would go further, madam, than you are saying, because I mean, I come from Sweden. We in Europe, we see now that people are actually looking for the kind of guidance that Hinduism and Hindu-like religions, Buddhism and others, even the pagan religions, are seeing some kind of resurgence in Europe, Africa, among Maoris, Yorubas in Nigeria, the Maya Indians. I've been to Guatemala, I've seen the temples of the Mayans. They're trying to rebuild their religion. You know, it's a universal dharma. It's not about Indic, it's not about Asia. It's a universal dharma that existed long before the missionary religions came, and it will exist, and I think there is a resurgence coming about. So, one more question. One more last question. Very brave. One more.
As I understand about Ceylon, the southernmost part was under the Hindus. You call it Tamilians or whatever, it was under Hindus. The Indian government, the Sonia government, or of course the outside India, the other powers, they wanted that Ceylon should be with the Christians or with the Muslims, but they wanted to dedicate the Hindus. So Hindus were the genuinely living there, they must live. The question was that it was under wrong context. Please clear me that they was removed. The Tamilians did not kill Rajiv Gandhi. Clear it.
Thank you for this question. We don't go into the past to talk about mistakes made. We go into the past to understand Hindu history, the consequence of our own mistakes, what we are today. We want to get out of this. We want to make a positive, happy life in Sri Lanka. For that, we want global support. Thank you.
I want to thank all our wonderful, wonderful panelists. Some of them at the last minute, but they did a fantastic job, and I have a feeling they're available for you for further question and answer. And I know a lot of people have a lot of questions. Please give them a big round of applause. Thank you.